Today we're on page 13 of our Chapter 5 notes packet, sum and product of the roots of a quadratic equation. Now we discovered in class today that there are formulas that exist to find the sum and product of the roots of a quadratic equation. Using these formulas, we can also work backward and when given the sum and product of the roots, find an equation that they fit. Note that the last statement did not say the equation that they fit, rather the an equation. Any pair of roots can have an infinite number of equations that they fit. We will find the most basic one. So let's recall the formula for the sum of the roots of a quadratic equation. Sum of the roots is equal to negative b over a, and the product of the roots is equal to c over a. And I remember, well, the word product has the letter C in it, so for product it's going to be C over A. That's just my trick for remembering. Okay, we want to find the sum and the product of the roots of the equation 2x squared plus 3x minus 4 equals 0. Well, our A value, it's in standard form. Our A value is 2, our B value is 3, and our C value is negative 4. So the sum of the roots, negative b over a, is going to be negative 3 over 2. The product of the roots, c over a, c is negative 4, over a is 2, which would be equivalent to negative 2. Now, working backward, if the sum of the roots of a quadratic equation is 10, and the product of the roots is 9, write one possible equation with these roots. Well, one thing to remember, you might want to remember is this. As long as your a value is 1, then the general form 1x squared minus sum x plus product equals 0. That will give you an equation. Otherwise, if we think of it this way, the sum, which is negative b over a, and has to equal 10 over 1. So a is 1. So for simplicity, we'll let a equal 1. And the product is 9. So c over a has to equal 9. Then if negative b equals 10, right, negative b equals 10 from above, then b equals, divide by negative 1, and b equals negative 10. And if c over a, c over 1 equals 9, then c equals 9. So one possible equation is x squared minus 10x plus 9 equals 0. Make sure you have an equation. Again, we could have used this as well. As long as our a value is 1, then our equation would be x squared minus the sum, so minus 10x, plus the product, plus 9. So you can go through the work each time, or you can remember this. As long as your a value is 1, then x squared minus sum x plus product equals 0 would be one quadratic equation with the given roots. For practice, find the sum and product of the roots of the following equations. All right, so here we're given the equation, what is the sum and what is the product. So let's make we'll first do the sum, which is negative b over a, and in the other column, the product, which is c over a. All right, so for a, our a value is 1. Our b value is negative 9, and our c value is 2. So we want negative 9 over 1, which is simply 9 for sum, and product is c over a, 2 over 1, which is simply 2. And number 1b, a value is 2, b is 5, C is negative 3. So our sum would be negative 5 over A, which is 2. And our product would be negative 3 over 2. And C, let's put this in standard form first. Subtract 7, 4x squared minus 5x minus 7 equals 0. So A is 4, B is negative 5, and C is negative 7. So for sum, we want negative B, so this would be negative negative 5 over 4. And negative negative 5 is positive. So that would be equivalent to 5 over 4. And product, C over A, negative 7 over 4, is just that, negative 7 over 4. Next page, page 14. It says, using the given sum and product of the roots, find an equation that satisfies the roots. So when you're given the sum and the product, again, you can remember this form. As long as A is 1, 1x squared minus sum x plus product equals 0. So if we use that, this is simply for our first equation. If the sum is 6, this is going to be x squared minus 6x, and our product is 5 plus 5 equals 0. Sum is 11. No, I'm sorry, that's a negative 11. This would be x squared minus 11x. Well, no, Miss Montalbano, that's supposed to be minus negative 11, so that would be plus 11x plus 0, which we'll leave off as just equals 0. And for C, if the sum is 0, this would be x squared minus 0x, which we know is just 0, plus the product is negative 12, would be minus 12 equals 0. Or we can rewrite this as x squared minus 12 equals 0. Okay, if you would, try some of these on your own, otherwise work them through with me. We're using the formulas for sum and product of the roots. Remember, sum is negative B over A, and product is C over A. Find the sum and the product of the roots of this equation. Well, our A value is negative 2. Our B value, there's no x term, so the coefficient of it would have been 0, and our C value is 1. So the sum of our roots here would be negative 0 over negative 2. Of course, 0 doesn't have a sign, so but 0 over negative 2 would be 0. And the product of the roots, C over A, 1 over negative 2, is simply negative 1/2. Find the sum and product of the roots of this equation, 9x squared equals 3x. Put it in standard form. A value is 9, B is negative 3, and C, of course, is 0. So the sum of the roots, negative B, negative negative 3 over A. Double negative is positive, and that would reduce to 1/3. And the product of the roots, 0 over 9 is 0. Number 3, find an equation if the roots are 10 and negative 9. All right, a little bit of work starting now. 10 and negative 9. Well, what's the sum of these roots? The sum? What is 10 plus negative 9? It is 1. And what's the product of these roots? What is 10 times negative 9? It's negative 90. All right, so this would be x squared minus the sum, minus 1x, plus the product, negative 90, minus 90 equals 0. That's x squared minus 1x minus 90 equals 0. Find an equation if one root is 7i. Well, if one root is 7i, remember, if we're using the quadratic formula or complete the square, oftentimes what do we have? We have plus or minus, right? So if one root is 7i, the other root could be negative 7i. So positive 7i, negative 7i. What's the sum of these two? We'll add them. 7i plus negative 7i is 0. And what's the product? Multiply them. What is 7i times negative 7i? That would be negative 49i squared. And remember, I squared is equivalent to negative 1, so negative 49 times negative 1 is a positive 49. So we have a sum of 0. So this would be x squared minus 0x, and a product of 49, plus our product. So x squared plus 49 equals 0 is an equation. Number 5, find an equation if one root is the square root of 6. The other root would be negative square root of 6. What's the sum? What's square root of 6 plus negative square root of 6? Well, that's 0. What's the product? The product, what's the square root of 6 times negative square root of 6? That's negative 6. So we have x squared minus the sum, which was 0, plus the product, which is negative 6. So x squared minus 6 equals 0. Find an equation if one root is negative 4 minus 10i. Well, what's the other root? Would be the negative 4 plus the square root of 10. I think I said that wrong. I think I said negative 4 minus 10i, but no, we have here it's negative 4 minus the square root of 10, negative 4 plus the square root of 10. What's their sum? Add them. It's negative 8, right? Their sum is negative 8. What's their product? Okay, these are conjugates. When you're multiplying conjugates, I'm going to go up to the left here. Negative 4 minus 10i times negative 4 plus, excuse me, I keep saying 10i for some reason. I apologize. So negative 4 plus the square root of 10. Right? Since they're conjugates, the end result would be simply the product of the first terms. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. And the product of the last terms. Negative square root of 10 times positive square root of 10 would be negative 10 or minus 10. So the product, 16 minus 10, is 6. This is the product. So we have a sum of negative 8 and a product of 6. So we have x squared minus the sum minus negative 8x plus the product plus 6 equals 0. And yes, we would just clean up the double negative here and write x squared plus 8x plus 6 equals 0. Number 7, find an equation if one root is 7 minus 2i. Well, the other root would be 7 plus 2i. Actually, I would have been better off if I wrote that right beneath it and then added them for the sum. This is 14 plus 0, so the sum is 14. The product, and if we multiply these, since they are conjugates, the end result would be the product of the first term, 7 times 7, which is 49, and the product of the last. Negative 2i times positive 2i is negative 4i squared. But remember, I squared is equivalent to negative 1. So a double negative would be plus 4. So 49 plus 4 is 53. All right. So we have 1x squared minus the sum x, so minus 14x, plus the product, plus 53 equals 0. So there's our equation. X squared minus 14x plus 53 equals 0. All right, now the last three equations are a little bit different. It says find the value of b and x squared plus bx minus 12 equals 0 if one root is 3. Okay, well, if one root is 3, well, this negative 12 here represents the product. So if the product is negative 12, then we need to say the product of the roots, root 1 times root 2 has to equal negative 12. Well, if one root is 3, well, 3 times what other root is going to result in negative 12. This is a r sub 1 for root 1 and an r sub 2. That's not a square root of 2, sorry. That's an r sub 2 for the second root. So 3 times what equals negative 12? Or simply take negative 12 and divide it by 3, and that would give us negative 4. So our other root, our second root, is negative 4. Oh, sorry, didn't answer the question yet. Our second root is negative 4, and b represents the sum. Right? So what is the sum of 3 plus negative 4 is negative 1. I'm going off the paper. Here we go. All right. And b represents the opposite of negative 1, which would be positive 1. So b is 1. Number 9, find the value of c in the equation x squared plus 6x plus c equals 0 if one root is negative 2. All right. Well, the value of 6, our sum would equal negative 6. Right? Our sum is negative 6. So if one root is negative 2, so if we have one root plus the other root, that would have to result in negative 6. So negative 2 plus what would result in negative 6? Or simply add 2 to both sides, and our second root would have to be negative 4. So if our second root is negative 4, now we want the value of c. c represents the product. So what's the product of these two? Negative 2 times negative 4 is 8. So our value of c would be 8. And number 10. One root is negative 4. We want to find the value of c, and x squared minus x plus c equals 0. Okay. Minus the sum. So our sum is 1. So if one root is negative 4, the sum of the two roots has to equal 1. Negative 4 plus the other root would equal 1. So our second root is, add 4 to both sides, our second root is 5. Now we want the product, the value of c. So 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. All right, this completes our video for tonight.